Hello, tonight, you find yourself standing at the edge of a river that moves as if it has nowhere to hurry. The river reflects the soft amber of the late afternoon sun, winding through low hills and gentle plains like molten glass. You breathe the faint scent of ripening grain as birds glide lazily above, their distant calls whispering through time. So before you get completely comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you truly enjoy what we're creating here. Perhaps you notice the small villages along the river, their thatched roofs blending gently with the green fields, and feel a quiet calm, realizing how the river unites all life. Pause to comment your local time and place, joining this peaceful journey. Now, slowly dim the lights. Perhaps turn on a fan, letting the steady hum of the air fill the room. And in that gentle rhythm, we quietly step into tonight's journey. Together, you step closer to the riverbank, feeling the soft, yielding soil beneath your feet. Faint impressions of hooves and bare feet tell stories of those who walked here before. The plain stretches golden in the fading light, and small rises in the landscape allow gentle observation over the flowing water, whispering memories of generations. Long past, a small boat glides slowly across the river, rower humming a soft tune that mingles with water, lapping the vessel's sides. The reflection of clouds shimmers on the surface, time seeming to pause in that mirrored world. A duck paddles past, leaving delicate ripples behind, almost carefully choosing not to disturb the serene balance that settles over the golden plain. The air is warm, touched by a gentle breeze that brushes through barley and wheat, swaying like waves of gold. Each stalk moves in rhythm, rising and falling with quiet grace. You feel part of that flow, grounded by the ancient scent of earth and growth, as if standing in a space where humanity and nature have quietly agreed on mutual patience. Walking along a narrow path between fields, you see small villages with humble thatched roofs, enduring through time. Children follow slow-moving cattle, laughter light and fleeting, like distant bells. Chickens wander near your feet, pecking with casual boldness, reminding you that even in serene landscapes, little surprises and humor sneak in unnoticed. A clay granary stands nearby, its surface warmed by the late sun. It holds the wealth of seasons, a silent guardian of sustenance. You think of the river valleys of Mesopotamia and the Nile, where the first granaries emerged, quietly shaping power. These simple mounds of grain quietly command more than any wall or tower ever could. The landscape undulates gently, the river curving like a soft-spoken guide. Smoke rises lazily from cooking fires, curling into the evening sky. Dogs lie stretched on sun-warmed paths, eyes half closed. The scent of fresh bread drifts from nearby huts, small gestures of comfort reminding you that life here flows in harmony, unhurried and steady. From a low mound, you observe distant trees forming a protective horizon, each branch touched softly by the setting sun. You imagine stories told by evening fires, simple and comforting, while even the trees seem to sway to their own quiet rhythm. Shadows stretch across golden fields as goats bleat and wooden tools clatter. Irrigation canals wind gently through the earth, and a wobbling goose reminds you that stillness holds playful, gentle surprises. The sun dips lower, casting apricot and lavender hues across drifting clouds. Reflections shimmer delicately on the river's surface, and a soothing calm settles over you. Humans, animals, and water coexist with subtle patience. Villagers occasionally glance your way, seeing only a fleeting shadow, while the river murmurs softly, a lullaby measured in the slow pulse of seasons. Along a winding dirt road toward a distant village, you see meticulously planted crops, rows of green rise deliberately, yet harmoniously with the breeze. A small child chases a butterfly, fleeting excitement brightening the quiet land. You chuckle softly, thinking, even in the oldest empires. Someone is probably running late for dinner, and smile at the timelessness of simple, small moments. By the river, fishermen cast their lines with calm precision, synchronized to the river's ebb and flow. You imagine how rulers long ago may have stood here, pondering survival, abundance, and control over granaries. Routine, repeated through generations, forms the hidden backbone of civilizations. Every action here, quiet and deliberate, contributes to the gentle order sustaining life in the valley. A soft wind carries the scent of earth and water. A lone cat perches silently atop a fence post, vigilant yet unhurried. The landscape feels vast yet intimate, as if the river itself guides your wandering steps. You inhale deeply, letting the scent settle your thoughts, noticing the subtle humor and kinship between yourself and creatures who navigate this gentle, enduring world. As dusk deepens, fires glow faintly along the river, lanterns scattered across the plain. Granaries catch the last light, reassuring and patient. They are not fortresses, but their importance lies in quiet sustenance, the promise of tomorrow stored safely. Villages exhale in unison, preparing for night's gentle stillness, a soft rhythm of work completed and rest beginning. Walking along the cooling path, the crickets begin their delicate symphony. The river laps softly at its shore, the rhythm, subtle and hypnotic, almost musical. You sense countless nights like this, unchanged except by the slow passage of seasons. Each movement of people, animals, and water contributes to a centuries-long lullaby, flowing without haste across time's quiet landscape. Twilight fades, leaving soft shadows and a gentle hush across the valley. Every small gesture tending. Fire, rotating grain, mending fence carries the weight of generations, and the land responds in quiet harmony. You pause by the river, listening to the reeds whisper, and feel the persistent heartbeat of the valley, patiently enduring through cycles of empires and harvests. Darkness settles fully, stars beginning to glimmer above, reflecting faintly. On the river, the granaries, fields, and villages exist in calm unity. You let thoughts drift like leaves on water, carried gently by history's quiet flow. The landscape embraces you in serenity, a soft, enduring lullaby. You feel the gentle rhythm of life continuing slowly, patiently, and peacefully into the night. You step lightly along the soft dirt path that winds through the golden fields, noticing the orderly rows of barley and wheat, each planted with care and intention. The village ahead is small but structured, with simple homes clustered around. A modest square. You begin to sense the invisible threads of authority, quietly guiding the rhythms of life. As if every movement is part of a carefully choreographed dance. A low hill offers a view of the settlement's heart, where the tribal leader's home sits modestly, surrounded by smaller dwellings. The roof is thatched and the walls are plastered, with a mix of clay and straw, exuding warmth in the late afternoon sun. You imagine the leader observing the fields, the river, and the villagers with calm attention, maintaining balance rather than imposing grandeur. That the governance here is gentle, almost invisible. Rules are simple. Neighbors assist one another. Grain is shared in times of need, and disputes are settled through quiet discussion. You notice how this soft system creates cohesion, how everyone seems to understand their place without the need for constant enforcement. It feels as if the land itself teaches the lessons of patience and care. Children play near the river, laughing softly, dipping their toes in the water, and chasing each other around the low mounds of earth. You watch their carefree energy, realizing it thrives precisely because of the structure surrounding them. A goat wanders lazily past, pausing to chew on a stalk of barley, and you smile at its patient, almost diplomatic, approach to life. The villagers move in harmonious rhythm. Women tending gardens, men repairing fences, elders walking slowly with canes that tap against the dirt. There is no rush, no urgency, yet everything is accomplished with precision. You think about how this balance, subtle as it is, has endured through seasons and years, creating stability that almost seems eternal. The fertile soil stretches beyond. The village, cradled by the gentle curves of the river. You notice small irrigation channels, carefully dug, their edges softened by grass and reeds. Water trickles through them quietly, feeding the crops, reflecting the afternoon sky in tiny, still pools. You feel the ancient logic of these channels, how they support life without pomp or pretense, quietly shaping the fortunes of the people. Your gaze lingers on the granaries, round clay structures rising from the earth like soft sentinels. Hold the season's harvest, stored in layers of barley and wheat. You recall reading that such clay granaries existed in Mesopotamia more than 5,000 years ago, early tools of stability and power, storing wealth in silence. They seem almost alive, their curved surfaces glowing faintly in the sun's gentle light. You notice how even the small square of the village reflects this quiet order. There is a communal oven where bread is baked and the scent drifts across the fields, mingling with the earthy perfume of harvested grain. Villagers exchange greetings with soft nods, each movement deliberate, unhurried, almost meditative. You imagine that this calm social fabric allows life to flow without the need for walls or gates. The settlement's defenses are subtle, almost playful. Low earth mounds mark the perimeter, and a few watch posts perch on hills like quiet observers. You notice that while there is protection, it is not imposing, nor does it aim to intimidate. The strength lies in familiarity and vigilance, in everyone knowing each other and the land rather than in stone or steel. The river carries more than water. It is a conduit for commerce and connection. Small boats drift slowly, loaded with woven baskets, fresh fish, and earthenware. You imagine traders from neighboring villages gliding along the calm currents, exchanging goods and stories, laughing softly over minor misunderstandings, forging alliances with nothing more than shared meals. And handshakes. You pause to watch an elder inspect a granary, tapping it lightly with a stick to test the grain inside. The sound is hollow, resonant, affirming that the harvest remains secure. You note the precision in this act, the centuries-old knowledge passed down, ensuring that food, the most basic of needs, never becomes scarce. Even the smallest details carry importance here, quietly shaping the future. Children gather around the riverbank as a young man demonstrates how to weave reeds into simple mats. You notice their attentiveness, the way knowledge passes without pressure or hurry, much like the gentle current flowing past their toes. Laughter mingles with the sound of water, and you feel the subtle humor in how children always find the unexpected joy, even in lessons meant to be serious. You wander toward the far edge of the village, where fields stretch into the horizon. A single cow grazes near a flowering bush, its presence calm, unbothered by your proximity. You think about the connection between land and leadership. The soil is generous, the river steady, and the governance soft, like a background hum that allows life to grow. This is the kind of strength that does not announce itself, but endures. Small footbridges cross irrigation channels, made from simple planks, their surfaces worn smooth by decades of use. You step across carefully, noticing the faint creak, imagining how generations have crossed in similar fashion. The bridge is neither monumental nor insignificant. It is an ordinary tool that quietly supports extraordinary continuity. You chuckle, softly thinking, even history needs a bridge now and then. The villagers gather in the square for the evening ritual, sharing food, stories, and laughter. Their voices rise and fall like soft waves, harmonizing with the gentle rustling of reeds along the riverbank. You notice the way faces relax in the fading light, how the sense of shared purpose strengthens community bonds. more effectively than any walls ever could. You linger near the edge of the river, watching the last golden rays reflect off the water. The light softens the contours of the granaries, houses, and fields, merging them into one seamless vision of peace and order. You reflect on how stability, delicate yet enduring, depends not on force, but on the quiet rhythm of daily life, repeated over seasons and generations. The sun dips fully below the horizon, leaving a tranquil violet glow across the sky. Lanterns are lit, small flames dancing in the twilight, signaling the gentle end of another day. You feel the calm order of the village wrap around you like a soft blanket, the kind that makes you believe that everything is exactly as it should be. You take a deep breath, listening to the murmur of the river, the distant laughter of villagers, and the faint wind stirring the crops. The sense of harmony is profound yet understated, like a perfectly tuned instrument. You realize that this quiet governance, these soft rules and gentle customs, have shaped life in a way that feels eternal, preparing the land and its people for whatever may flow gently toward them next. You turn your gaze toward the distant horizon, where hills rise softly against the pale morning sky. Beyond those slopes, you sense lands buzzing with energy you cannot yet touch. A new dynasty stirs there, its people multiplying steadily, their villages expanding like gentle waves on an unseen ocean. You imagine their granaries filling with grain, a quiet testimony to order and ambition. The fields in that faraway region seem narrower, tilled more intensely, with every inch of soil pressed into service. You think about the strain this brings. Rivers that twist and turn can barely quench the thirst of crops, and the sun scorches where irrigation falters. Their labor is constant, but nature imposes its limits, and you feel the first whisper of pressure in the air, subtle, almost polite. You walk along your own riverbank and imagine a caravan of merchants approaching from that distant realm. Their boats are small but steady, carrying woven baskets, clay jars, and carefully folded mats. You imagine the hum of their conversations, soft yet urgent in intent, discussing harvests, trading ideas, and perhaps wondering where new fertile lands might await them. The distant dynasty notices the richness of river valleys far beyond its borders, lands where soil gleams dark and fertile under the gentle sun. You imagine them mapping these regions in their minds, marking places where water runs slow, soil holds moisture, and granaries could stand sentinel over a plentiful harvest. The thought seems quiet, almost poetic, like a painter surveying a blank canvas. Pressure is subtle yet persistent. You sense it in the rhythm of distant plows, the clatter of wooden tools, and the soft cadence of marching feet in the villages you cannot yet see. You imagine leaders counting heads, calculating food, wondering how to feed more mouths without overtaxing the land they know intimately. You smile quietly at the thought that even then, they likely envied your field's gentle generosity. Trade routes are not just for goods. They are carriers of information. You picture envoys traveling across valleys and over rivers, observing patterns in crops, noting which lands yield most easily, and which might welcome soft governance. They carry subtle intelligence wrapped in the guise of friendship, leaving behind small gifts, a gentle reminder of presence without force. You notice how the distant dynasty has learned patience. Instead of storming across hills in haste, they send small teams to observe, to learn, to integrate subtly into the rhythms of neighboring lands. You see the elegance in this restraint, how influence spreads not by violence, but through careful curiosity. A lesson written quietly in every river bend and every granary roof they pass. As you walk slowly beside your own fields, you imagine how the river serves as a guide, an artery connecting civilizations. Boats drift lightly across the water, carrying fresh fish and woven baskets, almost like messengers of an unseen world beyond the horizon. You catch yourself imagining the future when these boats might meet travelers from the distant dynasty. Yet nothing intrudes today, only the gentle anticipation of change dot in the villages along your river. Elders whisper stories of lands across the hills, tales passed down of ancient empires like those along the Nile and in Mesopotamia. You hear them speak of granaries that commanded more than armies, of harvests dictating wealth and influence, and of rulers who understood that storing grain was storing peace. You smile, noting how such lessons travel softly through generations. You watch children play near irrigation channels, their bare feet splashing in shallow water. They laugh as small frogs leap into puddles, oblivious to the pressures rising far away. And yet, you sense a connection, a thread tying your quiet valley to lands you have never seen, where human hands turn soil, build granaries, and measure time in harvests and water levels. The air carries faint scents of distant smoke, perhaps fires in villages not yet visible, their rhythm unfamiliar but oddly soothing. You imagine the daily routines of people far away, how their lives mirror yours in subtle ways. Preparing meals, repairing roofs, carrying water, tending animals, counting grain, and wondering what tomorrow will bring. You feel a sense of kinship. Across space and time dot, even in your calm fields, you notice the whisper of anticipation. Leaves rustle differently today. The river hums a fraction more insistently, and a gentle breeze carries an intangible message from afar. You think of this as a soft reminder that no land exists in isolation, that rivers, wind, and human ambition flow continuously, connecting places through invisible currents. You imagine leaders in that distant land carefully marking territories. On maps, placing granaries like silent sentinels along fertile valleys. Each decision is deliberate, considering soil, water, and neighbor proximity. Advisors scratch quills slowly across parchment, making quiet choices whose consequences will ripple across futures yet to unfold, shaping lands far beyond the present. View. A flock of geese glides overhead, precise yet effortless, guiding one another without commands. You smile, picturing the distant dynasty observing its people similarly, farmers, merchants, and scribes moving in quiet synchrony. Each contributes subtly to the growth of influence, unnoticed by those resting beside their riverbanks, while life continues in gentle, steady rhythms below. Sunlight warms the ripening barley and wheat as you walk, casting soft shadows across. Granaries and cottages. The distant presence cannot disturb the calm here, only hint at eventual change. Like the faint scent of rain on the horizon, it teases gently, a whisper of influence carried across fields, rivers, and time, present yet unintrusive. You pause on a low mound, watching the horizon glow as the sun sinks further. The river mirrors the changing light, smooth and undisturbed, hinting at currents that may one day reach the village. The distant power feels like a soft wind over water, noticeable and directional, yet unobtrusive, promising subtle change though. Today the valley remains calm, serene, and gently protected. The final warmth of daylight lingers on your skin as twilight settles. You sense the quiet rhythm of life here, harmonizing with unseen activity far away. The ambitions of distant dynasties hum softly in your imagination, while stars begin to emerge in the indigo sky. Influence travels subtly, like rivers beneath ice, a gentle breath across the valley, hinting at shifts yet to arrive. You step gently onto the soft earth of the valley, feeling the richness beneath your feet. The plains stretch endlessly, their soil dark and inviting, holding the promise of bountiful harvests. You notice the subtle undulations of the land, where small rises offer perspectives over the golden fields, as if the earth itself is offering a quiet, protective embrace. The river curves gracefully through the landscape, its waters reflecting the sky's soft hues. You imagine small boats gliding along its surface, carrying baskets of fresh produce, earthen jars, and bundles of reeds. The waterway feels like a silent highway, connecting villages, exchanging goods and stories with the ease of a gentle conversation. You probably won't make it across before sunset, but you enjoy the thought. The soil itself seems generous, holding moisture just long enough for barley, wheat, and lentils to thrive. You notice how the subtle richness of this land distinguishes it from others, a quiet abundance that requires no boasting. Grasses sway with the wind, their tops catching golden light, reminding you of a soft melody played by nature's hand. Scattered along the fields are patches of clay and stone, hints of minerals tucked just beneath the surface. You imagine villagers digging shallow pits to extract them, shaping tools, weights, and simple utensils. Even without modern technology, these resources create a subtle, sustained advantage, a quiet wealth that the people carry in their hands and store in their homes. Small hills mark the edges of the valley, gentle rises that offer perspective but never feel forbidding. You walk along one, noting how the view opens to neighboring lands, rivers, and distant forests. Movement across these borders seems natural, unobstructed, a kind of landscape that invites exploration, trade, and a gentle curiosity rather than the construction of fortresses dot in the village center. You notice the familiar shapes of granaries, their clay walls rounded and smooth. They rise quietly, holding the fruits of the soil. You recall reading about the granaries of Uruk in Mesopotamia, dating back to 3500 BCE, early repositories of civilization's first stored wealth. You smile at the continuity, the same logic, thousands of years apart, quietly shaping human settlement. Farmers move slowly through the fields, their hands brushing against the tall barley. The rhythm of their labor is unhurried yet deliberate, as if the land itself guides their movements. You hear the faint clatter of tools against stones, the soft whisper of earth shifted and turned, a steady hum of life that reassures you of the valley's enduring calm. The riverbanks are dotted with reeds and wildflowers, their colors muted yet soothing. You watch the water shimmer with reflections of the late afternoon sun, and you feel the subtle pulse of trade and travel that the waterway supports. Even without grand marketplaces, the river connects lives and ideas, a quiet artery of exchange flowing gently through the land. Children wander near the edges of the granaries, kicking up small clouds of dust as they chase one another. There, laughter carries across the fields, mingling with the distant calls of birds and the soft rustle of grain. You think about how even in times long past, play and labor coexist, and how the fertility of the land nourishes both sustenance and imagination. The soil's richness is complemented by abundant fresh water, feeding crops and animals alike. You bend to touch the cool surface of a shallow stream, feeling its gentle current slip through your fingers. You imagine how villagers rely on this water daily for drinking, cooking, and irrigation, and how its constancy provides a silent reassurance that life here flows without sudden hardship. Along the river, you notice small docks, simple planks, laid across stones, where boats rest and trade quietly occurs. You imagine the gentle rhythm of boats departing and arriving, laden with grain, clay vessels, and woven mats. The movements are unhurried, almost ceremonial, emphasizing harmony rather than urgency, a soft testament to the strategic value of the waterway. Dot at dusk, the hills glow with warm light, casting long, gentle shadows across the plains. You imagine the land as a sleeping giant, resting in its own abundance, offering itself as both sustenance and sanctuary. There is a sense of quiet security here, a soft strength that does not announce itself with banners or armies, but with fertile soil and steady rivers. You pause near a granary, its clay walls smooth and sturdy. The air carries the scent of dry earth and ripe grain, subtle and grounding. You recall historical accounts of granaries along the Nile, were controlled. Storage of crops enabled the rise of kingdoms. You think about how these simple structures quietly govern the fortunes of entire peoples, holding stability in their rounded, earthen walls. A soft breeze flows across the plains, carrying the scent of wildflowers and freshly turned soil. You feel it wrap around you like a gentle cloak, reminding you of the delicate balance between abundance and care. The land seems to breathe with you, its quiet treasures shared freely yet respected, offering sustenance without demand or haste. Villagers gather at the river for evening chores, drawing water, mending nets, and exchanging small words of kindness. You observe their subtle organization, the way each task complements another, creating a seamless rhythm. Even without formal command, life here moves in patterns that ensure safety, plenty, and continuity. You think how impressive such harmony is, like a song repeated across seasons. As the sun sinks lower, shadows stretch over the fields, turning gold into soft amber. You notice the reflective surfaces of the granaries, catching the last light, glowing as though holding not just grain, but the quiet memory of generations. You imagine the care taken to build them, to maintain them, and the way these stores quietly shape the valley's significance for those who know their value. Finally, you step back, letting your eyes sweep over the river, fields, and hills. The light softens and the air cools, carrying a hush that signals evening. You sense the valley's specialness, fertile, accessible, and quietly powerful. The granaries gleam in the last sunlight, a subtle promise of stability leading you gently toward the next chapter, where currents from distant powers may begin to touch this serene land. You stroll along the riverbank at dawn, noticing small boats approaching from afar. Their sails are soft, catching the morning light, and you recognize them as merchants from lands you have only heard of. They carry jars, woven baskets, and bundles of grain, offering glimpses of ideas and goods unfamiliar to your valley. You smile, imagining the conversations over steaming porridge. As the merchants land, you observe villagers gathering curiously. They exchange smiles and polite bows, their hands brushing against foreign fabrics, curious tools, and small trinkets. The air hums gently with negotiation and laughter, and even the river seems to pause for a moment, reflecting the colors of exchanged goods and shared curiosity. You watch as ideas float quietly between the visitors and locals. Simple techniques for preserving barley, small suggestions about irrigation, and methods of measuring grain are offered casually. You imagine the villagers absorbing these lessons without haste, taking what suits their rhythm and leaving the rest, like tasting a new recipe and deciding to keep just the seasoning. The merchants linger longer than expected, and some villagers invite them to share meals. You hear the soft clatter of clay bowls and the quiet splash of stew ladled into cups. Stories are told slowly, voices rising and falling like the gentle current, and you notice how laughter bridges differences. Even the oldest elders chuckle at tales of faraway customs, shaking their heads softly at the absurdities of distant life. As days pass, a few villages begin to form gentle alliances with these visitors. You imagine small ceremonies of welcome, hands clasped over bread, promises exchanged with a smile rather than a command. Support and guidance are offered carefully, without disrupting the valley's harmony, like a soft wind nudging leaves along. A stream. You notice the rhythm of trade expanding subtly. Boats now arrive more frequently, bringing small loads of goods and letters sealed with unfamiliar marks. Villagers adjust their schedules, rising earlier to meet these gentle currents of commerce, while still maintaining their familiar rituals, like morning prayers and midday rests in the shade of granaries. Some of the granaries along the riverbank begin to change hands quietly. You watch as new officials, dressed in soft linen and simple leather sandals, check ledgers and weigh grain. Yet the villagers' daily lives continue almost uninterrupted, Children chase ducks, women tend gardens, and elders tell stories in the evening glow. The presence of these new hands is gentle, more advisory than commanding. You wander along a quiet lane where a small festival is taking place. Music from flutes and drums fills the air softly, blending with the aroma of roasted barley and honey. You notice that the new officials join in subtly, contributing small gifts or arranging games for children, their authority woven into the local rhythm rather than imposed abruptly. Taxes, too, are introduced delicately. You see officials counting small amounts of grain, recording details in neat ledgers. Yet the villagers seem unconcerned, accustomed to seasonal offerings, treating this new system with light curiosity rather than fear. Even the goats grazing near the river seem unbothered, munching rhythmically as if nothing significant has shifted. In the evenings, you watch lanterns sway along the riverbank. The glow illuminates gentle silhouettes of merchants, officials, and villagers moving together, sharing tasks and stories. You sense a subtle blending of rhythms, the old and the new interlacing like threads in a tapestry, forming patterns that will endure without haste or strain. You notice a small boat carrying clay, jars filled with barley, gliding along the river. The current moves slower here, almost contemplative. Officials guide the boats, but the villagers' hands remain on the tillers, steering as before. You feel a quiet satisfaction in this cooperation, a demonstration that influence need not crush existing routines, but can harmonize with them like wind and sail. Children now watch the officials with curiosity, asking questions about faraway lands. You hear laughter and soft teasing as the elders translate the answers into stories. The river carries these words gently downstream, perhaps to villages you cannot yet see, creating ripples of awareness and connection without urgency. Or alarmed markets expand subtly. You stroll past stalls where woven mats now share space with imported fabrics, local honey next to small jars of spices from distant lands. The villagers move among the stalls with deliberate calm, tasting, examining, choosing, and returning to their familiar routines. Even in these small changes, the valley's pace remains measured, almost meditative. You observe a quiet ceremony at the central granary. Officials weigh stored grain and note quantities on soft clay tablets. Villagers watch respectfully, their movements unhurried. You notice that the exchange is mutual. The officials ensure storage safety, while villagers provide guidance about local weather patterns and soil conditions. Influence flows here softly, not like a storm, but like rain that nourishes without uprooting. The river itself seems to respond to these gentle shifts. Currents that once ran swift and carefree now ripple with small eddies, carrying messages, goods, and whispers of influence. You walk along its banks, imagining how each bend and turn mirrors the slow integration of new power, a rhythm that maintains continuity while welcoming subtle change. Evenings bring soft communal meals where locals and visitors share roasted grains and freshly baked bread. Laughter punctuates the air gently, blending with the river's soft murmur. You feel a harmony in these moments, a sense that life continues at its deliberate pace, accommodating new presences without stress, like clouds drifting lazily across a pale sky. You pause near a granary as the sun dips low, its walls glowing softly in amber light. You note how the presence of outsiders has left faint marks. A small path widened, a new wooden post for drying grain, the quiet addition of inked ledgers. Yet nothing feels hurried or imposed. The valley flows onward, incorporating change as naturally as soil absorbs rain. Finally, you step back and observe the river from a gentle rise. The current has slowed slightly, carrying hints of new hands, new routines, and quiet oversight. You feel a sense of calm anticipation, as though the land has acknowledged these gentle steps of influence, allowing them to enter softly, leaving the valley's own rhythm intact while preparing for what may come next. You arrive at the village as morning mist rises gently from the river, brushing the tops of the granaries with soft silver. Today marks a subtle milestone, barely noticed by some, yet quietly significant. A record is being made, a ceremony of acknowledgement rather than celebration. You feel the gentle gravity of change as it settles over the fields. Officials from the distant authority arrive with slow, measured steps. Their robes are light linen, their voices low and even. They carry scrolls and clay tablets, recording inventories of grain and goods. You watch the villagers observe, curious yet unhurried, their gestures calm and polite, acknowledging presence without urgency, allowing the process to unfold at its natural pace. Dot at the center of the village, a small gathering forms. You notice the old tribal leader stepping forward, not with pride or defiance, but with a serene acceptance. Hands clasped over earthen jars, he offers guidance to those taking his place, ensuring that knowledge of storage, irrigation, and seasonal cycles is passed without hesitation or tension. The air feels cool as officials mark each granary and weigh the contents. You see the meticulous notes made in soft clay, etched carefully to ensure continuity. No banners flutter, no drums beat. Instead, the quiet scratching of reed styluses and the gentle murmur of onlookers fills the space. You sense history being recorded softly, like water flowing over smooth stones. You wander along the riverbank and notice that the water carries small reflections of this subtle authority. Boats glide under the watchful eye of new stewards, yet rowers maintain the familiar rhythm. There is no clash of control. Rather, an easy integration, like a gentle current meeting another without turbulence. Each respecting the path of the other, the villagers continue their daily routines, tending to fields and livestock with slight adjustments. You notice the subtle shift in direction for carts and small boats, minor changes that accommodate new oversight. It is almost imperceptible, yet the rhythm of the valley has begun to harmonize with a distant hand, allowing influence to blend with tradition like sunlight through morning fogged-out children play near. The granaries as elders offer explanations of the day's proceedings. You watch small hands tracing patterns on clay tablets, mimicking the motions of the officials. Laughter drifts across the river, carrying with it a sense of continuity. Even in the face of change, life remains steady, like the soft lap of water. Against the banks, predictable and reassuring, the former leader steps aside, joining a quiet circle of villagers near a shallow stream. You see him sharing tips for crop rotation and irrigation with officials, ensuring the transition preserves knowledge of local conditions. The gesture feels ceremonial yet informal, a passing of stewardship without ceremony or pomp, gentle as the rustle of barley in the evening wind. You notice a subtle adjustment in the festival calendar. Harvest rituals now include small acknowledgments of the new authority. You hear soft music blending old and new, the notes drifting across the fields, wrapping villagers in familiarity while welcoming a distant presence. The melody is unhurried, flowing naturally like a river bending around a stone. Officials record taxes, a small portion of stored grain, using careful measurements. You see villagers contribute without concern, understanding the logic behind the system. Even the goats grazing nearby seem aware of the quiet order, their movements gentle and relaxed. The new regime imposes subtly, not aggressively, like a light breeze stirring ripples across a placid lake. You walk along a narrow path lined with reeds, reflecting on how the granaries symbolize continuity. The distant authority manages the stores, yet the villagers' hands remain on the grain, guiding, measuring, and observing. You sense a balance achieved, where oversight does not disrupt life, but rather stabilizes it, like a soft hand supporting a child learning to walk. As the sun climbs higher, its light glances off the clay granaries, illuminating the smooth surfaces. and casting warm reflections on the earth. You notice the absence of tension, the quiet dignity of the transition. Even small details, like a rope tied differently or a wooden post replaced, carry meaning, signaling care and responsibility without fanfare or urgency. Along the river, boats are checked gently by officials, who nod respectfully at the local. Rowers, you feel a rhythm established, one that balances tradition and oversight. Currents ripple softly under oars, blending the movements of villagers and new authority alike. You sense that this subtle cooperation will define the valley's pace for seasons to come. You notice small gardens near the granaries, where herbs and vegetables flourish. The villagers maintain their care, occasionally showing officials techniques unique to the valley. You imagine how knowledge of soil, sun, and water passes back and forth, not imposed but shared, creating quiet bonds that extend beyond mere oversight, as if the land itself encourages mutual respect. At midday, shadows stretch across the fields, softening the outlines of granaries and riverboats alike. You feel the weight of time lightly pressing against the valley, steady and patient. The former leader smiles subtly as he observes daily life continue undisturbed. You sense that authority has shifted without disturbance, a quiet handover recorded in ink, clay, and memory. You pause near a small dock, watching boats load grain for transport. Officials oversee without hurry, guiding gently while rowers maintain their customary pace. Even the birds seem to acknowledge the subtle rhythm, skimming the water in tandem with oars. The balance between past and present is maintained delicately, like a whispered conversation between wind and leaves. Evening descends slowly, tinting the granaries with amber light. You feel the day's change settle like a soft sigh across the fields. The river glimmers faintly, reflecting the village and granaries, both old and new. You realize that the quiet change of hands carries not drama, but a subtle weight, stewardship and continuity flowing together like intertwined streams. Finally, you step back onto a gentle rise, taking in the valley as a whole. A transition has been recorded, acknowledged, and absorbed into daily life. You notice a calm in the air, a reflection of the new balance. Like a placid lake disturbed only by a soft breeze, the valley has adapted, ready for the currents yet to come, while holding its own quiet, enduring rhythm. You wake to the soft glow of dawn spilling across the granaries. The river glistens faintly, carrying reflections of rooftops and small boats. Villagers move with calm purpose, adjusting gently to the presence of new authority. Some families decide to leave, seeking quieter valleys, while others settle into the rhythm of this evolving life, curious and unhurried. You notice children running along familiar paths, their laughter mixing with distant sounds of officials moving through. The fields. The village seems larger now, not in size, but in subtle layers of interaction. New faces appear in markets and at river docks, blending naturally with long-standing routines. You smile at the sight, thinking how even small changes ripple slowly. Through daily life, the granaries hum with quiet activity. Farmers carry bundles of barley and wheat to be stored under the guidance of the new stewards. You watch as they measure carefully, ensuring no grain is lost, learning from methods unfamiliar yesterday, but absorbed effortlessly today. It feels like watching a river find a new course without altering its flow. Market days evolve gently. You wander past stalls where local honey and vegetables now share space with small jars of foreign spices. Villagers examine these items at leisure, tasting, comparing, and sometimes laughing at strange shapes or unexpected flavors. You notice that curiosity outweighs urgency, and that the rhythm of exchange is as unhurried as a soft breeze through. Reeds. The festivals reflect a blending of traditions. You see villagers carrying lanterns as officials follow quietly behind, joining games or offering small gifts. Music rises and falls in soft harmonies, merging old tunes with subtle foreign notes. You feel the cadence of life continuing uninterrupted, enriched rather than replaced, a gentle integration of diverse voices. You stroll to the river, watching boats glide with ease. The new officials guide the vessels occasionally, yet the villagers remain fully capable. The partnership is quiet, respectful, and almost imperceptible. You sense that influence here is not about control, but cooperation, like a soft wind nudging a sail rather than forcing it, allowing motion without disruption. Some families leave the valley entirely, packing carts and bundles before sunrise. You notice them passing through without haste, carrying memories and traditions downstream. Their absence is gentle, leaving space for adaptation and quiet observation. Meanwhile, those who remain continue planting, harvesting, and celebrating, slowly learning that life flows best when old and new harmonize. Children mimic the actions of new officials at the granaries, tracing lines in clay tablets, pretending to weigh bundles of grain. You hear laughter from elders who gently correct their gestures, guiding both young and old in small, unhurried lessons. The day unfolds in quiet cycles, each movement deliberate but gentle, as if the valley itself encourages patience. You wander past a small garden where villagers experiment with crops introduced by the new authority. Herbs, grains, and vegetables are tended with care. You notice how careful observation of the soil and water flow helps the valley flourish under the subtle stewardship of the newcomers. It is a slow merging of knowledge, absorbed like sunlight warming soft earth. Evenings arrive with communal meals along the riverbank, the scent of roasted grains and fresh bread mingling with soft spices on the breeze. Villagers and officials share quietly, learning names and habits without hurry. A gentle rhythm has settled here, steady, familiar, yet carrying a subtle novelty that keeps life quietly engaging. You observe tax collection unfolding gradually. Officials note quantities of stored grain, yet their tone is conversational, their approach patient. Villagers comply without resistance, understanding the system's logic and appreciating the fairness. Even the ducks paddling nearby seem to follow the rhythm, gliding calmly, unconcerned with the soft undercurrent of authority now flowing alongside their river. Market stalls display small changes in layout. Local artisans mingle their wares with imported goods. You see villagers inspecting textures and colors, smiling at items that once seemed distant or exotic. The pace is gentle, unhurried. Evenings are filled with conversations that stretch lazily along the river, combining new words and old stories, forming a tapestry of shared understanding. The river's reflections shimmer as night approaches, soft lanterns flickering on boats and docks. You notice officials moving quietly among the villagers, offering guidance but never insisting. The valley breathes in tandem with this gentle influence, maintaining its own rhythm, like water adjusting to the subtle curves of stone. It meets along its course. You wander to a granary where farmers carefully rotate stored grain. You notice small notches on clay tablets marking weight and quality, ensuring every kernel remains accounted for. The villagers have absorbed these new practices with patience, learning that preservation ensures not only survival, but harmony. With the new stewards, it feels like watching a gentle tide embrace a familiar shoreline. Even in leisure, the influence is apparent. Children play near riverbanks as officials watch quietly, offering guidance only when asked. You sense a silent understanding forming between old and new. The authority here does not disrupt, but harmonizes, like soft music underscoring a familiar dance, creating cohesion without urgency or conflict. You observe a small procession during a minor festival. Villagers carry lanterns. Officials follow with quiet attention. Music rises in delicate waves, blending previous melodies with new harmonies. You notice how the subtle presence of authority enhances rather than overshadows life, a calm integration that feels almost inevitable, yet entirely natural. As night settles, the river carries soft reflections of lantern light, glimmering across granaries and small docks. Villagers rest, the rhythm of life flowing slowly alongside gentle influence. You feel the valley itself adjusting, not abruptly, but like a soft wave reshaping sand at the water's edge, integrating new currents without losing its own gentle pulse. At last, you step back and take in the village from a gentle rise, observing the calm flow of life along the river. Villagers and officials move with quiet cooperation, each action measured, contributing to a harmonious rhythm that feels timeless. The landscape seems to inhale slowly, carrying the weight of generations, while remaining light and unhurried. You notice how adaptation has settled in gently, blending old customs with new practices. Life continues in serene, enduring patterns, like the soft pulse of the river itself. The valley exhales quietly, ready for the seasons yet to arrive. You step onto the village path as dawn gently brushes the rooftops of clay and straw. A subtle calm has settled over the valley, like morning fog lingering over golden fields. New officials move among the granaries, with measured steps, their presence firm yet unobtrusive, quietly integrating into the life of the villagers, without disrupting their familiar rhythm or daily routines. The granaries hum softly with activity. Farmers carry bundles of barley and wheat under the watchful eyes of newly appointed stewards. You notice careful measurements etched into clay tablets, recording every detail, every sack of grain. It reminds you of Roman horia or Egyptian storehouses, where precision ensured the flow of nourishment for cities, a silent guarantee of stability across time. Officials guide villagers through minor adjustments in daily routines. Taxes are collected gently, in conversation rather than command. You see merchants adjusting their boats at the docks, aligning schedules with river currents and the new oversight. Even the birds seem aware of the quiet order, gliding through air now measured by human hands as well as nature's own rhythm. Wander along narrow paths flanked by wheat fields, observing small gestures of governance. A guard nods kindly to a passing farmer. A scribe carefully records contributions, and an elder quietly advises children on proper harvesting techniques. Authority exists here, not as a weight pressing down, but as a soft hand steadying a familiar rhythm that has endured for generations. The river mirrors the calm order of the valley. Boats glide smoothly along its course, their oars dipping in unison, guided subtly by stewards who intervene only when needed. You sense a balance achieved, where oversight does not disturb life but reinforces it, much like a gentle current aligning reeds without uprooting them, allowing flow to continue naturally. Villagers gather herbs and vegetables near the granaries. You notice that the new regulations do not hinder growth. Rather, they provide structure for preservation and trade. Harvested crops are stored with careful attention, ensuring the yield remains abundant. The valley embraces both tradition and guidance, the presence of order flowing gently. Like sunlight filtering through morning mist, small festivals continue with subtle adaptations. You watch lanterns being carried in processions, with officials walking quietly behind. Music drifts across the fields, blending old melodies with gentle new harmonies. You sense that governance here is more about rhythm than control, fostering connection rather than authority, allowing life to retain its natural cadence while embracing structure. Children mimic the careful weighing and measurement of grain, copying gestures they observe in stewards. You notice laughter and playful debate as elders quietly offer corrections, guiding learning without pressure. Authority is present yet unobtrusive, a soft hand guiding curiosity and maintaining order, like a calm river encouraging reeds to grow, straight and strong without force. Along the river, small boats deliver grain to distant markets. You observe officials checking logs, ensuring accuracy, yet doing so in a calm conversational tone. Villagers comply willingly, understanding the benefit of such order. Even the wind seems gentler here, carrying the faint scent of freshly harvested grain and the soft murmur of flowing water, underscoring the valley's new harmony. You notice adjustments in trade practices. Artisans and merchants organize their goods thoughtfully, aligning with seasonal cycles and river schedules. Imported items arrive, integrated seamlessly into existing markets. You sense the presence of oversight that is not oppressive, but facilitative, quietly ensuring that economic flow remains steady and reliable. Like a river guided along its gentle course, the granaries themselves stand taller in your perception. No longer just storage, but symbols of continuity. You see officials checking weight and quality, coordinating efforts to maintain abundance throughout the valley. It is reminiscent of ancient Rome, where Horia not only stored grain, but maintained civic stability, a testament to how quiet order can ripple outward, supporting life on many levels. You wander through quiet streets as villagers perform there. Evening chores. The rhythm of labor is soft and familiar, harmonizing with the gentle presence of authority. Farmers water crops, children chase ducks along the riverbank, and elders share stories near the granaries. You sense that the integration of governance is now part of the natural cadence, unobtrusive yet essential to maintaining calm. Evening sunlight paints the granaries and fields in warm amber. Officials walk lightly among villagers, offering guidance without intrusion. You notice the soft glimmer of river water reflecting lantern light, the gentle sound of carts moving over dirt paths, the quiet murmur of conversations blending old routines with new practices. Harmony seems to settle across every surface of the valley. Taxes and contributions are recorded carefully in clay tablets. You see officials and villagers working side by side, measuring, noting, and storing grain with equal care. The process is deliberate, slow, unhurried. You sense the weight of continuity here, where oversight ensures stability without pressure, allowing life to unfold naturally and without concern for abrupt changes. Small boats transport goods, guided gently by stewards. Villagers watch and assist, integrating their knowledge of tides and river currents with the instructions of newcomers. You sense the elegance of collaboration, a silent dance between old wisdom and structured order, flowing together like parallel streams merging without turbulence, each retaining its own character yet sharing a path. You observe preparations for a minor harvest festival. Lanterns are arranged along riverbanks, soft music drifts across fields, and officials join quietly, participating without demanding attention. The rhythm of the valley remains unbroken, life continuing at a gentle pace. You notice that order has become a part of the environment itself, like sunlight warming the earth without force. Night descends softly, shadows stretching across granaries and fields. Officials check logs one last time before retreating to their quarters. Villagers settle, the day's routines complete. You sense a calm permanence, like a lake reflecting moonlight, the valley embracing a harmony where structure and tradition coexist seamlessly, a quiet equilibrium that promises continuity without disturbance. Finally, you stand on a small rise overlooking the valley. The river flows steadily, boats gliding, granaries glowing faintly under lantern light. Villagers rest, children sleep, elders converse softly. The new order has merged gracefully with the old, creating a rhythm unhurried, enduring, and complete. The valley breathes softly, fully aligned with the currents of life now flowing gently alongside new stewardship. You wander along the riverbank as morning light stretches across the valley. The water shimmers softly, reflecting rooftops and granaries that have become silent witnesses to change. You notice subtle markers placed along the edges of fields, mapping the newly defined borders. The lines are gentle, more symbolic than rigid, Like threads woven into the fabric of daily life. Villagers greet newcomers with calm curiosity. Merchants arrive from distant towns, carrying baskets of spices, cloth, and small tools. You observe the flow of trade expanding quietly, each transaction a soft echo of larger forces at work. Grain travels steadily along riverboats, the rhythm of commerce weaving seamlessly into the valley's unhurried cadence. You notice children practicing songs that mix old melodies with gentle new tunes. Festivals begin to reflect this blend. Lanterns float across the river, music drifts lazily through streets, and laughter mingles with unfamiliar accents. You feel the delicate layering of culture, like grains of sand settling evenly along the riverbed, forming a foundation both new and familiar. Dot maps, crafted by careful scribes, reveal borders that were once undefined, tracing small tributaries, gentle hills, and winding trade routes. Each line is drawn with precision, yet remains soft, establishing authority without disturbing the natural flow of life. Villagers continue their daily rhythms, unaware of the subtle structure forming around them. As order quietly settles into the landscape, like morning mist at the docks, you observe how new oversight has subtly reshaped movement. Boats glide in measured succession, loading grain and goods with care. These simple harbors now carry weight as symbols of enduring power, echoing the Horia of ancient Rome, quietly recording stability and organization. Even the smallest gestures of governance leave their mark on everyday life, gentle yet lasting. Market days hum with steady activity. You wander past stalls where cloth, pottery, and herbs are arranged thoughtfully, mingling local craftsmanship with foreign imports. Villagers greet each other in mixed tongues, exchanging ideas as naturally as they exchange goods. You feel that language itself has become a bridge, softening boundaries while preserving identity. Granaries loom quietly over fields. You notice the careful labeling and rotation of grain, a practice introduced by new stewards. Their presence is subtle, unintrusive, yet their influence is etched into the architecture, the clay tablets, and the memory of those who labor within. You see how these structures, both functional and symbolic, anchor the flow of power gently. Like stones in a shallow stream, children play near small boats while elders supervise with gentle smiles. You hear stories told in mixed dialects, weaving together old tales with new guidance. Festivals celebrate both harvests and arrivals, blending rituals and dances from different lands. You sense the soft hum of cultural integration, a melody that complements rather than competes with the valley's natural rhythm. You walk past fields where labor now follows subtle schedules set by stewards. Plows move in measured lines, irrigation channels channel water evenly, and small markers remind farmers of rotated planting cycles. You sense the quiet efficiency of these adjustments, flowing like the river itself, continuous, balanced, and steady, guiding life without force. At dusk, you observe lanterns lit along the river and streets. Officials move softly among villagers, noting the flow of goods, the rhythm of trade, and the patterns of daily life. You feel that authority is now intertwined with habit, a presence both guiding and invisible, ensuring continuity without urgency. As calm as the surface of a still pond, merchants arriving from distant settlements now carry familiar goods. You see clay pots, woven baskets, and grains stacked precisely on boats, a quiet testament to the merging of networks. The granaries and docks, etched into local memory, have become enduring symbols of reliability and power, like landmarks for those navigating both trade and history in gentle rhythm. You notice children helping with small chores, mimicking adults, in weighing, stacking, and recording grain. Laughter floats above the river, soft and unhurried. You sense that the younger generation absorbs integration almost unconsciously, learning patterns of work and interaction that harmonize old ways with new stewardship, forming a rhythm both steady and nurturing. Markets buzz softly as artisans display products in a more organized fashion. You notice a harmony in how space is used, stalls aligned for ease, and goods presented thoughtfully. Conversations ripple in multiple languages, yet the pace remains slow, measured, calm. The river carries reflections of this activity, its surface. A mirror of continuity and gentle adaptation, officials maintain records with deliberate care. You observe clay tablets being marked, noting grain storage, trade agreements, and population counts. Each mark is a soft reminder of structure, not imposition. You feel that these records anchor life in the valley, connecting present labor to future harvests, bridging past customs with new governance without disturbing the flow of everyday existence. At twilight, you hear music blending traditional tunes with melodies brought by newcomers. Lanterns reflect off water, casting shimmering patterns across granaries and docks. You sense the presence of continuity. Life in the valley maintains its familiar cadence, even as subtle changes etch themselves into the social landscape, forming echoes that will linger in memory long after night falls. You walk along the river as moonlight glimmers across boats and granaries. Villagers prepare for rest, their steps unhurried, the rhythm of daily life unbroken. The boundaries marked earlier feel both real and gentle, guiding but never restricting, allowing communities to coexist with harmony, like reeds bending under. A soft evening breeze, adjusting without strain. You step onto a small rise overlooking the valley, taking in the river that mirrors the fading light. Sky and water merge in a soft, dreamlike gradient as villagers rest and lanterns dim. The gentle rhythm of life unfolds below, a quiet harmony of daily tasks and evening stillness, where each movement seems measured and unhurried. Like a soft sigh across the fields, the influence of governance rests subtly in the background, woven into routines without disruption. Borders, trade, and culture flow together seamlessly, like water gliding over smooth stones. You notice how small changes ripple gently through the valley, fading softly like distant memory, leaving a sense of calm permanence that promises continuity and quiet reassurance for the days yet to come. You rise with the soft blush of dawn spilling over the fields. The river glimmers, carrying reflections of granaries and homes in quiet rhythm. Yet beneath this calm, subtle pressures stir. Dry patches appear in certain fields, irrigation channels run lower than usual, and villagers whisper about unpredictable weather that could test the valley's careful balance. Along the riverbanks, you notice farmers adjusting schedules for planting and watering. You sense a gentle tension in the air, the kind that comes from anticipating future seasons rather than immediate danger. Even small changes, like the tilt of sun or a shift in wind, are enough to remind everyone that the world beyond the valley continues its quiet, inexorable motion. You observe merchants arriving from distant lands, their boats creaking softly under the morning light. They carry grains, salts, and small wares, yet their presence hints at wider interest. You feel the gaze of powers beyond the river, eyes tracing the valley's fertile fields and well-maintained granaries, considering how best to influence, trade with, or integrate this land into larger networks. Children play near granaries as elders inspect stores. You notice repairs ongoing, clay walls patched carefully, storage bins reinforced. The old structures endure, yet faint signs of adaptation hint at the subtle changes required by time, trade, and growing populations. It is a reminder that even long-standing systems are never fully static, responding quietly to the currents of change. Along narrow paths, villagers discuss subtle fluctuations in the river. You hear mention of unusual currents and minor flooding upstream. Events that, while minor now, could signal gradual shifts in both agriculture and transportation. Life moves slowly, yet each movement is watched, measured, and absorbed, like gentle waves reshaping a sandy shoreline over months and years. Officials walk softly among the fields and granaries. You notice small adjustments in storage procedures, a rotation of grain that balances supply with anticipated demand. Even as the authority appears stable, the structures under its care show evidence of gradual evolution, ensuring that each harvest remains abundant while subtly preparing for pressures yet unseen. You wander past market stalls where merchants quietly discuss supply chains and trade opportunities. The conversation hints at broader networks and rival powers observing from afar. You sense that influence, like water, seeps gradually through borders, reaching even the quietest villages, introducing possibilities, changes, and subtle pressures that are absorbed by life in its unhurried rhythm. The granaries cast long shadows in late afternoon light. You see repairs and expansions, small walls built here, a roof reinforced there. These changes are incremental, almost imperceptible, yet they signal preparation for uncertain times. The structures are not just storage. They are living symbols of the valley's endurance and responsiveness to currents beyond immediate sight. Evening brings a soft glow over the river. Boats glide slowly, carrying grain and small wares to distant docks. You notice officials overseeing loading with measured care, aware that the flow of goods must continue, even as distant pressures loom. The rhythm is steady but watchful, like a calm tide aware of unseen currents beneath the surface. Villagers gather along the river to discuss minor disruptions. You hear talk of a particularly dry season upstream, whispers of distant neighbors expanding their influence. Life proceeds gently, yet awareness lingers. Subtle, ongoing changes require attention, adaptation, and patience. You feel the quiet tension as part of the valley's natural pulse. Not a force to resist, but to harmonize with. You notice children learning to carry buckets from wells with careful attention. Elders demonstrating how to preserve food during leaner times. Even routine lessons are tinged with the awareness of ongoing pressures, teaching resilience without alarm. You sense that each gentle act prepares the valley for future challenges. Much like small stones laid in a river guide water smoothly around bends. The sky deepens in color, reflecting soft amber and lilac hues in the river. Granaries and boats appear timeless. Yet subtle repairs reveal a flow of adaptation. You feel the valley is both rooted and dynamic. Traditions endure. But minor shifts ripple through every field and pathway, echoing the broader currents that stretch far beyond the horizon. You stroll along a quiet trail, observing distant hills that border the valley. Occasionally, scouts report minor movements from other regions, a shift in neighboring powers' activities. You sense that the valley, though peaceful, exists within a wider tapestry of influence, where currents of commerce, diplomacy, and population pressures flow quietly but persistently toward it. You notice repairs continue gently, minor reinforcements and new storage methods subtly improving resilience. Yet, each adjustment whispers of foresight and endurance, a quiet dialogue between tradition and the evolving requirements, imposed by unseen forces beyond the valley's peaceful borders. The river flows endlessly under moonlight, carrying reflection after reflection across its calm surface. You notice the soft movement of boats, minor ripples, and the occasional drifting leaf. Each movement reminds you that life, governance, and influence are part of an ongoing cycle. Current meets shore, adjusts, flows onward, and returns in a rhythm that is both predictable and endlessly new. Villagers settle for the night, meals shared, and lanterns dimmed. You notice the gentle care taken to secure grain and goods, the silent understanding that the valley's continuity relies on attentive observation of both known and distant pressures. Life continues smoothly, yet you sense that the undercurrent of potential change is acknowledged, anticipated, and harmonized within daily routines. You rise to a small hill overlooking the valley. The river stretches far beyond sight, reflecting stars and moonlight in soft silver threads. You feel the quiet pulse of ongoing life. Granaries, docks, fields, and paths all harmonize with unseen currents. Each gesture, each adjustment, a response to forces that are gentle yet persistent, guiding the valley forward in calm, unhurried motion. Finally, you stand quietly as night deepens. The river flows without end, the valley sleeps, and distant winds whisper possibilities across fields and waters. You sense that the current of life continues, relentless and patient, shaping paths, adjusting structures, guiding hands and hearts. The valley rests, yet it is always in motion, part of a vast and quiet flow that stretches beyond sight. You awaken to the soft glow of morning spilling across the fields, and the river hums a gentle melody along its banks. Granaries stand quietly, filled with the remnants of past harvests, each sack and bin holding stories of seasons gone by. You notice the subtle warmth of sunlight on clay walls, and the air carries a calm, enduring scent of grain and earth. Walking along familiar paths, you feel the rhythm of the valley's life, the same villagers tending fields, boats gliding on, the river and children practicing their small chores with unhurried patience. You realize that power comes and goes, rulers change, yet the valley endures. Each cycle of planting, tending, and harvesting continues almost unnoticed, like a heartbeat beneath the surface. You pause near a granary, where elders carefully inspect stores, rotating grains with practiced hands. Their movements are measured, soft and deliberate, like a quiet dance between past and future. You observe the way they communicate with one another through nods and gestures, a language older than memory, ensuring the continuity of life with minimal words, and a gentle humor in their subtle exchanges. Across the river, farmers adjust the irrigation channels slowly, water spilling over tiny dikes in shimmering arcs. You notice how each gesture flows naturally into the next, a choreography of patience and attention. Even minor disruptions are absorbed and corrected without urgency, as if the land itself teaches that there is no rush, only continuity. You walk along the edge of a field where golden stalks of barley sway in the breeze. The rhythm of their motion seems to echo the flow of the river, slow and constant. Children chase each other between rows, laughing softly, their voices mingling with the gentle sounds of flowing water and rustling leaves, forming a lullaby that drifts over the valley. In the evening, lanterns are lit along the paths and docks. You notice the soft glimmer reflecting on water and clay. You feel a quiet contentment settle over the valley as families gather for evening meals. Conversation is gentle, laughter low and warm. Each moment is ordinary, yet profoundly serene, carrying the comforting sense that life persists without haste. You climb a small rise, overlooking the valley. The river stretches far beyond sight, and granaries appear as small, solid anchors among the fields. You realize that the cycles of sowing and reaping continue, indifferent to distant powers or shifting rulers. The earth itself seems to breathe, slowly, and your footsteps blend into its quiet pulse. As night deepens, the fields take on deeper hues of violet and indigo, shadows stretching across familiar paths. You notice the occasional animals stirring, the soft flap of wings, and the whisper of the wind over distant hills. The valley is alive, yet there is no urgency. Each creature moves at its own pace, harmonizing with the steady rhythm of grain. River and sky. You pause near a boat docked at the river's edge. Its wood creaks softly, a gentle reminder of movement and transport that persists even in stillness. The granaries behind it stand firm, their contents undisturbed, storing sustenance for the coming seasons. You sense that while rulers rise and fall, and history traces its arcs beyond your gaze, the essential pulse of life remains constant. Walking back along a path lined with fields, you notice farmers collecting the last of the harvest under moonlight. They move slowly, deliberately, with the understanding that each seed saved will become the promise of the next season. You feel the cyclical nature of time, filling, emptying, sowing, harvesting, and starting anew, each action gentle and rhythmic. You pass a small shrine near a granary where villagers leave quiet offerings, gestures of gratitude for abundance and survival. The incense smoke curls lazily upward, merging with evening mist rising from the river. You observe the rituals, not as events of power, but as tender acknowledgments of continuity and care, whispered to the unseen currents that guide life along its gentle paths. The river reflects a pale moon, and its surface is almost motionless. You watch as tiny ripples disturb the reflection briefly, then settle back into calm. The granaries' silhouettes seem to float upon the water, reminding you of seasons past and yet to come, of harvests tucked safely away, and of the quiet resilience that allows life to continue in gentle perpetuity. You wander along a trail bordered by barley and wheat, noticing how stalks bend gracefully under their own weight. You see small gatherings of villagers sharing stories and tending to minor repairs, their movements synchronized yet unhurried. You feel the sense of a community aware of cycles, embracing them and moving in harmony with them, rather than resisting. Even as darkness blankets the valley, lanterns flicker softly, and the sound of water fills the night. You sense the flow of time as gentle and constant, like the river itself, carrying grains, people, and stories forward. Each night, the valley seems to whisper reassurance that life will proceed, quietly, deliberately, and beautifully, independent of urgency or alarm. You observe the granary's doors left slightly open, letting cool night air drift through the stored grains. The valley seems to breathe with each subtle movement, leaves rustling in the wind, distant animals pacing softly, and the gentle, almost musical creak of wooden beams settling. Each motion is quiet yet purposeful, a delicate rhythm of persistence that unfolds slowly, without hurry. Across the night dot, as stars appear over the fields and river, you sense a profound stillness. The valley sleeps, yet its life is not suspended. It is simply tempered, flowing quietly beneath the veil of night. You feel the cyclical certainty of seasons, of work and rest, of grain, stored and sown, echoing in soft, rhythmic harmony that calms the mind and eases the spirit. Finally, you lie down near a granary, the warm earth beneath you, and the scent of grain surrounding you like a soft embrace. Your eyelids grow heavy as the rhythm of the valley seeps into your being. The river's gentle flow, the rustle of stalks, the low murmurs of life, continuing steadily. You drift into the quiet knowing that all currents, all cycles, carry you peacefully onward. The script comes to a close. Thank you all for listening.